let us know when we are supposed to start so I can.
You can, Mrs. Aisha.
Okay. Good morning, marhaba and assalamu alaikum everyone. On the day 4 of the series of the first Symposium of Islamic Art and Architecture, greetings from Bahrain. Before we begin, I would like to thank very warmly to all of our distinguished participants for joining today's wonderful session with us. The symposium is organized by the Cultural Collaboration Committee, Department of Architecture and Interior Design, University of Bahrain. The symposium started its journey with the first lecture series presentation on the theme of symbolism and geometry in Islamic art and architecture. The speakers contributed with the outstanding study and presented a variety of research dimensions on the subject. The second session of the series was the panel discussion on the theme of future of mosque architecture in the GCC. The renowned speakers from Saudi Arabia participated with their extensive knowledge and contributed to highlight the integration of smart technology in the mosque design. The journey continued with its third successful event with the keynote speakers. The eminent speakers discussed about the Islamic art and architecture, what happened, what is happening, and what could happen. The presenters showed remarkable examples of contemporary mosque design and discussed the significance of Islamic heritage and the role of World Heritage Convention for the heritage conservation. Today, the fourth event of the series is taking place with the academic contribution on the theme of Islamic architecture between the past and the present. Today's session will be started with our brilliant speakers, Dr. Hana AlJowder and Dr. Fatema Qaed. It's an honor for me to introduce my dear colleagues. Dr. Hana AlJowder is a qualified interior architect with a BSc in Interior Architecture from King Faisal University, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. She pursued her master's and PhD from the University of Sydney, Australia. Her master's degree is in Building Design Science, and PhD was focused on both daylighting and visual privacy within the interior space, particularly for residential buildings. Our next participant of the same presentation is Dr. Fatema Qaed, who has a broad multidisciplinary background with an BSc in Interior Architecture from King Faisal University, MA in Design from Northumbria University, and PhD in Learning and Space Design from the same university. Dr. Fatema was awarded for one of the best business plan for Design Mind project. Her research about virtual reality exhibitions given a distinguished degree. She is an expert in design thinking, interior design, learning spaces, convivial tool, virtual reality exhibition, and learning theories. Without any further delay, let's welcome Dr. Hana AlJowder and Dr. Fatema Qaed to start their presentation on one of the very interesting topic, impact of religion on building design. Dr. Hana and Dr. Fatema.
Thank you very much, Ms. Aisha. I'll now start sharing my screen, and hopefully if you just confirm for me if you can see my
yes,
slides.
It is appearing, yes.
Okay. So good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining me to talk about the impact of religion on building design. To start with a small introduction about what is the meaning of religion. Religion can be defined by reflecting on what people seek in, from, or through religion. The religious person is one who seeks coherence and meaning in his word, and a religious culture is one that has a clearly structured world view. Religion leaves an imprint on the city as it affects human culture and lifestyle. Religious structures, such as a place of worship or other sacred sites, like, for example, the image above shows the Hindu ritual bathing in the Ganges. All of these dominate many landscapes, and they leave their mark on the physical appearance of an area. It is really remarkable how much time, energy, and above all money are put into the construction of religious buildings all over the world, as people tend to embrace the importance of their religion through the money and the energy they spend on those religious buildings. And showing some examples from all over the world, from the left side is the famous Sagrada Familia Church, which have been started to be built by famous architect Gaudi in the 1882, and still till today it's not finished because of its complex details. And in the second image, Haram and Diyar, or the House of God, half of the building is covered with real gold. Moving to the Islamic world, Sheikh Zayed Mosque, the mosque with 7 gold-plated chandeliers made of Swarovski crystals. The main dome is the largest mosque dome in the world. One of its astonishing features is the large carpet in the prayer hall, and it's shown in the image. It has been hand noted by about 1,300 Iranian craftsmen out of 35 tons of wool and 12 tons of cotton. So it's considered one of the largest carpet in the world, and its estimated value about 30 million UAE dirhams. However, religion affects architecture in 3 different ways. It gives us a place for worship, or what we call sacred architecture, whether it's a temple, a mosque, a synagogue, a church. However, it's important to mention that mosque for Muslims is more than a worship place, as Muslims believe that even their daily activities, such as working, are worship. Old mosques were usually combined with other functions, such as reading, studying, buying and selling, and so on. Also, religion affects architecture in terms of giving visual design elements, whether it's in Arabic calligraphy, Islamic geometries, rose windows, cross sculptures, domes, and so on. The third effect is that religion gives us principles that organize the way people live. The effect of Islam as a religion is much more than visual design elements. It's a way of living. And in this point, Dr. Hana will be giving more interesting descriptive details. So for me, I'll move to another point, talking about the use of design thinking approach to rethink Islamic philosophy impact on design, have given a different way of thinking. Islamic philosophy mandates integrating different disciplines harmoniously. It encourages interdisciplinary approach to think and raise questions. That philosophy in particular has brought up new functions and activities in a revolutionary way. As a result, new types of buildings have emerged in design realm. Let me give an example of what do I mean by that. If we took one of the Islamic philosophy related to the value of education, Islam embraces the value of education. For example, the first word revealed of Quran was Iqra, which means read, seek knowledge, educate yourself, be educated. And so many Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam hadiths are encouraging us to learn and to teach and to seek knowledge. One of those is a father can give his son nothing better than a good education. Even in Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encourages us to meet people from different cultures, to learn from them, even if they are different than our culture and our religion. So the value of education, seeking knowledge, not separating knowledge from religion, have revolutionized 2 types of buildings during Islamic Empire. And one of them is a multicultural library and the other is university. The first one is the House of Wisdom. The House of Wisdom is a multicultural library and an intellectual center. And according to the Western scholars, it have transformed their civilization. In the middle of the 9th century, the House of Wisdom had the largest selection of books in the world. It have brought together different functions like translation, studying, research groups, experimenting labs, all these functions together in one place. This building welcomed scholars and people of Jewish, Christian background who studied in this building together. This building welcomed people even if they were not researchers because of its easy access in the center of the city and next to the market. Even women with their kids used to enter that building and tell their children that I want you to be like this scholar and this researcher when you grow up. Islam as a religion encourages interfaith dialogue and did not reject people just because of their belief in religion. This was embracing the value of education and knowledge in the House of Wisdom. And that's what made the House of Wisdom built to be a multicultural library in the form of a remarkable palace. Islam philosophy encourages teamwork and working together, and this was reflected in the way the interior building have been designed. The second example is University of Al-Qarawiyyin, which was founded by Fatema bint Muhammad in Fas, Morocco. And not having the separation between religion and seeking knowledge made the University of Al-Qarawiyyin. It actually started as a large mosque. Later, it grew into a place of education, and it is still operating till today. It is the oldest operating educational institution in the world and was the first institution to award degree according to different levels of study in Islamic study, mathematics, grammars, medicine, and so on. Interestingly, teaching is still delivered in a very traditional manner, whereby students are seated in a semicircular around the sheikh, who raises questions and made them read sections of text and so on. Adjacent to Al-Qarawiyyin Mosque and University is the world's oldest library. So this combination of three different functions, a mosque, a university, and a library, brought up by Islamic philosophy of embracing the value of education and not separating education and religion. But what is the benefit of this way of thinking? This approach of thinking about Islamic design implemented in graduation level, where I rethink the function that can be combined together according to Islamic philosophy in order to strengthen the value of a student's project and enrich the user's experience. However, for the time limitation, I'm here going to present only 3 examples. The first one was done by me with Safa Al-Flaji, and it's actually what we were rethinking if the House of Wisdom will be built today, how it's going to look like. And we consider it to be a modern Arabic library, and we called it Haya. And the main aim was to make a center that will combine the community with the scholars, to break that line between them, that is to encourage reading and get the Arabic language to compete with modern science, for it to become the language of it, as how it was during Al-Abbasi period with the work done in the House of Wisdom. And here are some examples of the interior space and how each function of House of Wisdom have been modernized to fit in today's period. So those are some examples of the interior space. The second example, in this example, we used Islamic approach to storytelling. As we all know, Al-Quran is a masterpiece in storytelling, and it uses the storytelling as an approach to learn and educate people. So we used that approach to tell a story in a digital art museum. And we use the adventure of Sindbad, which is one of the 1,000 Nights and One Night storybooks, to translate it into a form of storytelling in a digital art museum. And we started by adventure starts when you get lost. And those are some examples of the concept and the interior inspiration, images and interior 3Ds of that space. The third final example was using Islamic philosophy about science, an Islamic way of integrating science with other disciplines. We use that approach to talk about scientific phenomena and natural cosmic in a digital art library, and that digital art museum, and that museum was called Beyond Nature. However, it's really important to mention that you might not see that approach in the concept sheet, but though this approach was the thinking that all those components, all those functions, all those interior design aspects and details have been built on. Those are some images from the halls and different parts of the interior space and how we implemented them. Thank you very much. This was the end of my presentation. Actually, I think I'm still having 50 minutes. Thank you very much for listening, and welcome to ask any question. I think, Dr. Aisha, your mic is mute. We cannot.
Yes, sorry. Thank you very much, Dr. Fatema, for your wonderful presentation. Inshallah, we will continue with the question answer session at the end. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Hana AlJowder to start her presentation. Dr. Hana?
Yes, hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Architect Aisha, for introducing me. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer for giving me this opportunity to participate. And thank you, Dr. Fatema, for your interesting topic. I'm continuing also on the similar, let's say, the umbrella of how the religion can be affect building design. And before I go into my presentation, I would like just to give a little bit highlight on how things were with me during the research part. As Architect Aisha introduced me, that my master degree was mainly onto building design science. And when I decided to do my PhD, because while I was doing my master, I will be exposed to lots of building design science, technology, sustainability aspects. Daylighting was one of the major things that I really feel in love with when I was doing my master. And accordingly, I decided to move forward and do my PhD in daylighting. And once I start to do my first proposal, and my supervisor advised me to do kind of a field study. When I came here to Bahrain back to do my first field study, there is lots of, I was very surprised about my field study and collecting of data, because when I study, mainly there is the houses of, let's say, the public houses in Bahrain. I start to feel that, okay, daylight is very important in such country like Bahrain. And we really need to give it attention. And my attention during the study is to focus how I can really utilize daylighting and maximize the utilization in order to be more sustainable, in order to utilize a source that it's really there in Bahrain during the entire year. But after a while, when I was doing a study and analyzed the data, I was really surprised that there is lots of other influences can affect even the availability of daylight. And digging behind this, the religion has a big part of it when you are thinking about daylight utilization in spaces, and particularly the residential spaces. So I start to do more reading, searching, looking into Quran, looking into the Sunnah, and I found that visual privacy was not just something that we claim that it's needed. Visual privacy, or the privacy itself, is a basic human right in Islam, which mainly affect our life in general. Like when we are designing our houses, when we are thinking about how we will have a best solution for us to accommodate our places. So the Islamic religion considers the basic human rights by identifying all rights and needs of every individual for survival, well-being, freedom, religion, beliefs, and privacy. So Islam was a very let's say have a very wide perspective that can tackle all our rights. And one of the important rights that I found it's really have a big influence was the privacy. But we need to understand that privacy in Muslim community mean creating a balance between the privacy of individual and group. It doesn't mean that prevent social networking or mean total isolation. It's never been like this. It is just to use to organize people and their lifestyle, which is enlightened by religion and control people's behavior in the society where they live. So it's a kind of giving us a guideline, a clear guideline for us that help us to live, respect others, and also socialize with a manner. So we need to understand it very well. Moving now, when we want to talk about organizing our lifestyle, it can mainly start to influence on how we can designing our architectural space. So going into detail like about privacy mainly in architectural space, we found that there is two types of a privacy, the visual privacy and the acoustic privacy. However, here I will be just highlighting the visual privacy mainly. So there is many also, let's say, definition about the visual privacy in residential spaces. But the most interesting one is I found it is the ability to conduct everyday activity of the home without observe or without fear of being observed by those outside the home. If we are talking about the neighbors or even the passer-by. So this is important, especially when it comes to see who is really need to have a privacy. So it is have a great importance in our life, and also it depends on the individuals who are occupying the space, and the needs of a privacy varies. It depends on the belief and culture, the gender, and the age. So for example, when we talk about the kids, they don't really need the privacy as the adult. This is from type of in terms of age category. When it comes to the gender, of course, in our culture and religion, the lady require more privacy and compare with the male, because if we, for example, if I'm wearing a veil or I'm wearing the scarf, of course I don't want anyone to look into my house and can see me without scarf. So this is something very important. Also the culture and belief, like to what extent you are really want to implement the things you are believe within your house or residential spaces. So these are very important. We need to think about it very clearly when we are designing. Who is your user? Why you are using? What is the need of the user that you are designing for? So, is there anything, an aspect can affect visual privacy? Yes, of course. I can come back to the first point when I started my study, which is studying the daylight. So daylight has a very conflict relationship with the privacy. When daylight is considered in any building, it will affect definitely the privacy, because if I want daylight, I need to open the curtain. I need to have a big, let's say, glasses that can bring the light in. But with this idea, then I will be affecting definitely my privacy as a lady in the space. So when the window size increase, daylight fenestration will increase, but it will consequently affect the amount of privacy that can be achieved for the occupants. So when we want to go further now to how the architect in a traditional Islamic architecture solved this problem, they were, mashallah, very smart at that area. They understand very well our needs, and especially the family needs, and particularly the lady needs in the space, in order to protect her, in order to achieve her comfort within the space by providing the visual privacy required for her. So first of all, they used to have a horizontal and vertical means in order to achieve the maximum availability of visual privacy for the occupants. For example, starting with the horizontal technique, they were able to separate the areas, male and female area. They also divided the area into from the guest area to the public space, semi-private space, and private space. And you can see here an example of a Sahimi house in Egypt when they are having their entrance at the lower part with the 90-degree to achieve the visual privacy, and then taking it to the semi-private space that family or relative can be over there, and then the third part, which is mainly dedicated for ladies in order to achieve and assure her visual privacy. Another, let's say, technique have been used as the inner or central courtyard inward, which is mainly created for the family to socialize, to conduct their daily life. And it was very popular in all Islamic or all traditional Islamic architecture at that time, which really play a very important role by creating a strong connectivity between outside and inside, provide the building with a big amount of daylighting in the space. In addition, that it's assure the privacy for the lady occupying the space and enjoying the connection between inside and outside. And all these courtyard was full of opening and window that can the daylighting can be distributed among all the spaces, so we can have really a healthy style of and sustainable houses design. Another vertical now we will move to the vertical techniques were being used by architects during designing their external facade. For example, we can see here the locating the window above the street level, so anyone is walking here will not be able to look into the houses. Also placing the doors not in front of other neighbors' doors, so when anyone opens the doors, it won't interfere with their privacy. Limiting the height of buildings, so even if I am in courtyard, I am not scared that someone from other houses can look into my courtyard to assure and make sure that the visual privacy is achieved. Not positioning the window in houses facing looking into the neighbor houses. This is also was a technique used, and using the Mishrabiyya was also the most smart, intelligent way or method used by the architect at that time in order to achieve the visual privacy and the daylight at the same time for interior space. So most of the houses around the Middle East region, it was popular, their house facade was popular with using Mishrabiyya. For example, the first example on the left, on the right is from Bahrain, Ibrahim al-Zaid house, and the other one from Egypt. So we can see that it was there all the time. And the idea and the mechanism of the Mishrabiyya was very smart enough in order to bring light, but without interfere with the privacy, because of the amount of daylight outside, the people inside can observe outside, but the outsider will not be able to look into the building who are occupying the building inside. And still it can give a good amount of daylighting within the space if it is designed well in respect to other factors can influence in terms of climate and direction of sunlight. Moving now to, this is what was tackled in the past, but what is going on now? If you are noticing now, many of these, let's say, strategies have been disappeared nowadays, and we will find still a kind of separation between public space and guest space, but it is with less graduate, and still the movement is, I don't have really a private zone in the beginning. Maybe I have external majlis for the men, but still it is not as strong as before. Even the inner courtyard was replaced by front and backyard. People also they prefer to have the Western type of architecture in their when they are designing their house, and they really don't want to have any other type of the traditional features. However, there is many now study. They are taking care of try to modernizing the way of the mashrabiyya being used and try to implement it in order not just as a let's say as a shading device, also as a privacy device. Of course, this is not the all. I try to summarize as much as I can from my research topic, as also I was also concerning about, I have here these my researches, I have two already published. It's about evaluating, for the first one, it's privacy versus daylight, evaluating the acceptance of daylight, a traditional device in contemporary residential houses in Bahrain, and also evaluating the performance of daylight in traditional as a traditional device in clear sky condition. And also I have other thing in the way of publishing is architecture and privacy in Islam, analytical review. It is all concerned about the daylight and visual privacy and its relationship, and whether the mashrabiyya by itself was able really to provide an enough daylighting within the space or not, in addition to evaluate the acceptance of people of reusing the mashrabiyya nowadays and try to come up with a proper solution for them. That's all. I try not to exceed my time limit. Thank you so much for your listening, and inshallah see you soon in another activity. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hana and Dr. Fatema, for a very exciting presentation on the advancement of Islamic design approach in architecture and in interior spaces. Our next presenter is one of our very dear colleague, Mrs. Layla Karajica. Mrs. Layla graduated from Sarajevo School of Architecture with a master's degree focusing on Islamic Oriental house and criteria for quality of habitation in Sarajevo. Besides a long career in architecture education, she practiced architecture in offices in Bosnia and Herzegovina and in Germany. Her areas of research interest are traditional architecture and heritage conservation, Islamic architecture, post-war reconstruction, and heritage of the 20th century modern architecture. Please welcome Mrs. Layla for her presentation on the mosque architecture between tradition and modernity, and she will be presenting a case of Sarajevo, Bosnia. Please, Mrs. Layla, the floor is yours.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Aisha, for your kind introduction. Let me first please share my screen and my slide. Can you please confirm if you can see it?
Yes, it is here. It is appearing.
Okay, thank you very much. So my presentation focuses on mosque architecture between tradition and modernity, the case of Sarajevo, Bosnia. It will be structured into three parts, starting with mosque architecture and in brief, just to create a context. Then moving to the case of Sarajevo in Bosnia, and ending up with some important questions that the debate on modern mosque architecture should focus on. Let me start with the mosque in brief, focusing on the evolution of the mosque architecture, which is a product of centuries of innovations. There is a hadith of the Prophet, peace upon him, saying that the entire earth is a mosque, meaning that we can pray anywhere. What is important is the spirituality of the place. However, over the centuries, the mosque as a building and the symbol of religion became the most celebrated and a splendor of Islamic art and architecture. Besides its religious function, it also plays important social, educational, economic, and ceremonial roles. So the mosque is not only a place for praying, but it is also a social institution and play a very important role in the life of the community. Let me summarize here. What did we learn from the mosque architecture? And what did we learn from the accumulated wealth of knowledge established over centuries? Focus here is on two issues: adaptation and common features. This slide shows how mosque architecture had adapted to many local and regional conditions in terms of climate, construction, materials, and to vernacular architecture of that particular locality that might pre-existed before Islam. On the other hand, we can see that many common features, such as mihrab, minaret, dome, arch, calligraphy, repeatedly appear in various distant and often unrelated localities. So over the centuries, mosque architecture set up some common principles and elements, but interpretation and the language change to adapt to a certain place specific. Analyzing studies on mosque architecture, one could categorize them into two groups: the tangible, physical, and these studies focus mainly on typologies and styles, elements and decoration, location and urban linkages, materials and construction. The second category of studies is intangible and non-physical. These studies focus on symbols and spirituality, and my colleague Aisha already spoke about this. Then on changes and adaptations, challenges and opportunities, and innovation and approaches. And Dr. Mishari and Dr. Hani also touch upon those issues. Images below are examples of tangible aspects of the mosque. At present, contemporary mosque architecture has already presented some bold solutions. And I call them bold because at this stage, I don't want to be seen as a supporter nor against new designs. I will disclose my position and it will be left to the end of my presentation. However, I would like to trigger the debate and to raise some important issues in shaping the contemporary mosque architecture that eventually will be the tradition of the future. Definitely, this symposium organized by the University of Bahrain and the Department of Architecture and Interior Design is an important platform to initiate such a debate. For better illustration, if we close our eyes and hear the word mosque, for sure there are certain stereotype images in our mind. Also, if we approach to an elderly man or an adult or even a child and ask him about the physical term of the mosque, for sure they will mention minaret, mihrab, dome, and arches. So this is a physical identity, while in the modern design, these features have been reinterpreted, remodeled, and sometimes even completely disappeared. The shift from the established mosque architecture to modern is clearly illustrated in this slide. On the left-hand side, we can see 5 images, some of the old mosque from Egypt, Turkey, and India with their common features and typologies. And some of them are relatively modern architecture, like Al-Fateh Mosque in Bahrain and Sheikh Zayed Mosque in Abu Dhabi. Looking at all those 5 images, we can see that all of them share common traditional features and forms, as opposed on the right-hand side, where we can see various modern interpretation of mosque forms and features. So I finish with my first part of presentation, where I established the context and the framework of the mosque architecture between tradition and modernity. Now I would like to move to Sarajevo as a case study. Sarajevo is best described as a city shaped by its history and its geography. It is a melting point of cultures where East meets West. By this, a unique culture and unique city with different religions, different ethnicities and cultures fused with each other. Here we can see a map and see how the city developed longitudinally along the river that is passing in the middle. Starting on east from the old Turkish part, moving to the middle part built during the Austro-Hungarian period, and then ending up with the modern part of the city on the west side. In terms of the timeline, the history goes back all the way to Neolithic period. However, it is most known for its Ottoman period in the 15th century, followed by the Austro-Hungarian period during the 19th century, and then further moving along this timeline, we reach the socialist period where Bosnia was part of Yugoslavia. It was followed with the unfortunate event with the recent war that lasted from 1992 to 1996. And then after the war, the new era started and the shift came from socialism to capitalism. However, the historical timeline has left its imprints on the city and has shaped its architecture, including mosque. So traditionally, mosque was the main place for socializing, of course, besides some other structures and buildings such as the traditional market, madrasas, khans, and so on. However, mosque was always the main building harmoniously integrated within the urban fabric, as we can see it on this image. Now moving to the image in the middle, during the socialist period, the focus of architecture was shifted from mosque to sport, performance, and art complexes, such as the one that you can see over here called Skanderia. And recently in September, this complex was listed as a National Heritage Building. And I have to proudly say that this complex was designed by my father, who is also an architect. And I do believe that this is an illustrative example that some of today's buildings are going to be the heritage of the future. After the end of the war and with the beginning of capitalism era, another change and another shift happened where socializing now has shifted to the shopping malls that were mushrooming throughout the city. But I would like also here to say that it is important to mention that the old part of the city has survived because of its charm and sense of the place, even today. And additionally, after the war, people became more attached to their heritage and to the places of worship simply as a reconfirmation of their identity. Sarajevo is a very dynamic city. It represents a collage of different architectures, visualized through the city history. In the traditional part, which is closer to the viewers, which is the eastern part of the city, the dotted mosques are harmoniously integrated within the urban landscape. And the morphology of the city and typology eventually is changing as our view extends down the river more towards the west. Now I would like to move to the mosque examples. Traditional mosque in Sarajevo and in Bosnia, we can group them as two categories. One that are located in the city and the other ones are in the neighborhoods. Traditional mosque architecture is inspired by the Ottoman architecture, simply as a result of Ottomans being present in Bosnia for over more than 400 years. The features such as multiple domes, arches, typical form of the minaret are a reflection of the Ottoman Empire presence. And also I would like to mention that very often what was happening that adjacent next to the mosque, they used to construct some other buildings, such as the picture in the middle below is showing a madrasa, sharing the same typology and the character similar to the mosque. And then next to it, we see the new, relatively new infill of the Islamic library. Again, feature of the dome is present over there as well. Moving to the second examples, mosques were spread throughout the city center. In this way, the mosque became a part of the urban structure. So people passing through the courtyards or nearby, simply the mosque became a part of their daily life. In the same way, the mosque became an important landmark, providing a certain sense of direction. Another example of a traditional mosque, all of them, all the three examples are displaying the same character and the same elements, outside and inside where spirituality is expressed. In the neighborhood mosque, we see that they become smaller in a size, displaying to a certain extent a different typology, very much integrated with mahalla or neighborhood morphology. Mosque became simpler, smaller, with typical pitch roof as a response to the architectural language of the surrounding houses. So the neighborhood mosque very nicely are blending in the surrounding area between the houses, where a lot of wood is used on the external facade. What is unique in the case of Sarajevo is a wooden minaret. So we have some of the example where the stone minaret has been replaced by a wooden one, although typology and morphology did not change from the other ones, mahalla and neighborhood mosque. Now, moving to a new era, to a new period. Modern mosque movement started in a small city of Visoko, which is a town around 30 kilometers away from Sarajevo, where the architect reinterpreted the traditional elements of the mosque in a modern way. He reshaped the conventional features of a courtyard, ablution, fountain, minaret, and mihrab as well. He cleverly used the effect of the natural light coming from above, which had a certain spiritual meaning as well. As the slide is showing, everything at that time was drawn by the hand, and the architect himself designed each element and detail of the mosque as a statement that at that time the architecture was considered to be a craft. I have to say that this mosque at the beginning was not really accepted by the locals, simply because they could not relate to the certain forms. However, this has been changed when the mosque received the International Award of Aga Khan in the cycle of 1981-1983. The second example was built a few years after in Zagreb, Croatia, where we can see the deconstructed dome and the reinterpretation of the conventional features such as mihrab. And we all know the importance of mihrab, and Dr. Haifa also has already focused on this element during her lecture. After shading the light of what was going on in Bosnia and other parts of ex-Yugoslavia, we reached the unfortunate event of 1992 war. Coexistence in Yugoslavia was broken and the war started. As an outcome of that war, many mosques were destroyed. It is estimated that approximately 80% of the mosque heritage in Bosnia was totally destroyed. Some of them flattened to the ground. The mosques were intentionally targeted as a symbolic representations of Islam, and the cultural genocide as a phenomena was created. After the war, renovation and conservation of old mosques happened. And I do believe that so far, most of them were reconstructed. However, the city of Sarajevo has experienced a surge of building of new mosques, mainly with donation and support from other countries. For instance, here we can see King Fahd Mosque, funded by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It maintained same elements, but because of the location and surrounding area, it got a unique place by itself. And let me just elaborate a little bit here. What do I mean by the location? The old part of the city was already filled with the mosque, and the density of that part of the city is really high, and simply there is no available location for any new construction. On the other hand, in the opposite side, on the west part of the city, in the new part of Sarajevo, there were at that time no basically mosques. So this locality was purposely selected, and I would just like also to draw your attention to the language of the surrounding area, and also still a present destruction on the facade that could be seen in some parts even today. Moving to the second example, we see the Istaklal Mosque, funded by Malaysia and influenced to a certain extent by Malaysian architecture. However, again, we can see the new locality. We can see, if we compare the traditional mosque, we can see how this new mosque is almost completely detached from the neighborhood, from the residential area, where almost the only access is possible by car. The third one is so-called Jordanian Mosque. This is a popular name given by the locals. Obviously, the mosque was funded by the Kingdom of Jordan, and again, the interpretation and the site was selected based on the area needed. Next mosque was built recently in 2016, also in the modern part of the city, again as an interpretation of the dome, where the mosque itself totally became a dome. It reminds us to a certain extent of the Walter Gropius Mosque at University of Baghdad, built during the 60s. So all those examples so far illustrate what is going on in Sarajevo and in Bosnia. Also, modern mosque architecture has spread to the other regions that were part of ex-Yugoslavia, such as Croatia and Slovenia, where in the case of Slovenia, Ljubljana recently opened mosque in 2020, we see the dome, instead of traditionally be externally seen, it became part of the interior. The blue color symbolically was inspired by the Sultan Ahmed Mosque in Istanbul. After seeing new mosque in Sarajevo and in the region, we can say that they display abstraction, reinterpretation, and new language. Definitely, these examples can raise some important questions, which I do believe are important to address, and to initiate debates, which is the subject of my final slide. Before listing those important questions, I would like to remind that Islamic civilization was built on innovation in science, art, architecture, and in philosophy. In the case of the mosque architecture and the shift from the established typology to modern forms, there are 5 questions to be raised. Would modern mosque architecture be equal in its merit to the centuries established traditions? Would it be able to establish identifiable mosque images different from other modern buildings? Would it manage to keep regional identity and to be place specific? And would it cleverly interpret the traditional mosque elements such as dome, minaret, courtyard, and so on? And at the end, would modern mosque architecture be able to reclaim or redefine its urban role and be a true representation of Islam? These questions should not be understood as a rejection of modern mosque architecture, because I totally believe in the following quote: blindly following ancient customs and tradition does not mean that the dead are alive, but that the living are dead. At the end of my presentation, I do believe that it is responsibility of all of us as educators, researchers, as architects, that mosque architecture does not lose its spirituality, its spiritual identity in any form. It has been shaped for centuries and to create the tradition of the future. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much, Aisha. I hope I did not take long.
No, it's fine. Thank you very much, Mrs. Layla, for providing insight of the historic evaluation of mosque architecture and sharing a beautiful example of Islamic architecture in Sarajevo and Bosnia. And I really appreciated and liked that how you concluded your presentation by raising very interesting points, and which will remain in our mind to think that what should be the solution for that. Thank you very much for that. So let's welcome our next presenter, who is one of our wonderful faculty member, Mrs. Farial Khan. Mrs. Farial Khan has 28 years of teaching experience in architecture, interior architecture, and in interior design. She is an architect and holding a bachelor and master's degree in architecture from Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology with a specialization on architectural conservation. She also holds postgraduate certificates in academic practice and has been awarded fellowship from the Higher Education Academy, UK. Her research focuses on architectural conservation, environmental issues, green architecture, sustainable architecture, and design education. As an editorial assistant, she has assisted in research work to produce 3 books for publication on architectural conservation and historic preservation in Bangladesh with the grant of Getty Foundation Trust, USA. Today, Mrs. Fariel is presenting one of the remarkable examples of Islamic architecture. Her presentation is on the spirituality over symbolism, where she will be showing a case of Baitul Rauf Mosque in Dhaka city. Mrs. Fariel, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Aisha, for the wonderful introduction. I would like to share the screen, and before that, I would like to say Assalamu alaikum and good morning to all the respected audience, presenters, organizers of the first annual Symposium Islamic Art and Architecture, and special thanks to the Cultural Collaborative Committee for organizing such a wonderful event. So let me share the screen. Okay, the screen is visible?
Yes, it is. You can make it full screen. That will be better. Yes,
okay,
it is clear now.
Presentation. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Today, I'm going to present my research on spirituality over symbolism, a case of Baitul Rauf Mosque, Dhaka, Bangladesh. When I'm gonna discuss on spirituality over symbolism, it is the intangible aspects over the tangible aspects of mosque architecture. The word spirituality is a quality of human feelings, sacred or transcendent, that connects our mind and soul with Almighty. In architecture, different aspects plays an important role, but light influences our main perception of space and to understand and comprehend the art and architecture. Light in Islamic architecture has a distinct connotation. It is known as the divine light, divine unity, and divinely connect with Almighty. So Islamic architecture used this light to create and evoke a spiritual feelings and spiritual connection of devotees and Almighties. When we enter to the mosque, mosque is a place for worship. We try to avoid all the material aspects of our life, and we move towards another world, which is the spiritual world. And everyone thrives over there to be closer to our creator, protector, the one and the merciful Allah, the Almighty. So during that time, the tangible aspects of the symbols like the minarets, domes, other aspects become less important, whereas the tangible elements, and that can be evoked by the help of mystical lights, can create an emotion and devotion and spiritual connection with Almighty. Architects are well known to be the creator of ambience of the space, and through spatial formation, interplay of light, and there are other aspects. Let's talk about the interplay of light. This light architects bringing to the interior spaces, it can be direct, indirect, diffused or refracted way, and which can instigate the spiritual feelings in human mind, which can be so deep, powerful and strong in case of mosque architecture that nothing in this world can come between the devotees and Almighty. Islamic religion highlights on simplicity, clarity, and purity in their architecture. A simple form, it can be calm and cool and peaceful space. Actually, all these aspects gave birth to the contemporary mosque design. And I believe that there are 3 C's plays a very important role for contemporary mosque design: concept, context, and community over iconic and symbolic design elements. And this concept, context, and community, with the help of light and other related issues, can instigate a deep impact on the users and create spiritual connection between the devotees and Almighty. I will give you some examples of the contemporary mosque. First is the Valiaser Mosque in Tehran, Iran. This mosque received the Best Community and Cultural Project, and here the architect has challenged the traditional Islamic design, and he has proposed a new era of mosque design, where in usual cases the mosque is more focused on the vertical axis rather than horizontality, but he created a different kind of mosque morphology, where he has expanded the mosque horizontally, and which became an uncommon horizontal structure spatial organization. He has changed the roof into a plaza, and this plaza has invited the community to the mosque, and it became as a part of the park. There is a park nearby, adjacent to it, of the project, and it became a place where people spend their time, sit over there, and became a neighboring theater. This is the interior of the same mosque. You can see that those steps has created and helped to create the diffuse light to enter and creating a spiritual environment. Then Al-Zabri Mosque in Hale, Saudi Arabia. This mosque, the architect was influenced by the context. As I told you, the 3 C's, context, concept, and community. So here the context plays a very big role because the surrounding area has a mountainscape of Samarra. This mosque is Sansaklar Mosque in Istanbul, Turkey. It also received the Riba Award for International Excellence in 2018. The building blends totally with the adjacent topography, and you can see that in this plan and the sectional elevations, how on the plan view you can see that the topography of the surrounding area and the image in the lower side in this part, that is totally blending, not imposing to the side. And part of the building has been taken down to, below the ground level to emphasize this blending with the topographical situation. And you can see that interior, the architect has created a cave-like space. Instead of having a huge dome, he has spreaded that area and make it as simple as possible. And all this spiritual image, we can see it. These are all out of the use of artificial and the natural light. The architect here has challenged the mosque architecture and focusing solely on the essence of spiritual spaces. And you can see that this is a Qibla wall, and this Qibla wall, there is no specific or decorative so it has got created the just break on the continuity of the wall, created the Qibla direction, and it has created a dramatic and inspiring place to pray in a solitude. Here is the Qibla wall, where this slit off area, which is the continuity of space, and just by bringing the natural light, maybe the during time and at night time, definitely there is a diffuse light, which is going to give you the direction of the Qibla. Then comes Archipita Mosque in Bahrain. It's a contemporary approach to Islamic architecture. It was built in 2011. And this architecture also got the recognition of as an excellence in mosque engineering and construction and design. The interior of this mosque is amazing. In fact, the outer part, you can see that the outer side, the facade has been treated in such a way so that those break on the surface pattern has created a scope to bring the light in a diffused way, creating a spiritual environment. Then comes King Abdullah Faisal district in the mosque in Riyadh. And it is in the heart of the financial district, and the architect over here is inspired by the desert rose, which is a natural occurring of the sand crystal. Imagine in Saudi Arabia, they are also allowing a mosque without the symbolic, typical and symbolic aspects of mosque architecture. These are other images of the same mosque. You can see that the sectional elevations and the night visions of the mosque and the plan view. Now I'm going to come to the main topic of my today's presentation, which is the case study on Rule of Mosque, Dhaka. It has got the Aga Khan Award for Architecture in 2014-16 cycle. Architect is Marina Tabassum, and the client is Mrs. Sufia Khatun. She's the grandmother of the architect. and it is being built in a densely populated area. There is a small story behind this mosque that the client, Mrs. Sufia Khatun, she lost her 2 daughters one after another, and Marina Tabassum, her mother, was one of them. And then she dedicated a land and she requested Marina Tabassum to design this project. And it was a very big struggle for Marina to design this project because of the tight budget and other related issues that a mosque can be created in a place. The design size was 75 square meter. It was completed in 2012 and it is in a densely populated area in Dhaka city. The architect gave profound importance in the spiritual aspects through the interplay of light, ingenious spatial formation, rather than the traditional symbolic spatial aspects of mosque architecture. Now I'm going to play a video. This will actually, this video will give you some insight of the building, some idea about, you've got to see Bangladesh, a 3 minutes long video. The community adjacent to the mosque and the architect's own words to explain her philosophy and the design of the mosque.
The buildings for me are living beings. They breathe, they have a soul of their own, and they age.
The Baitur Rauf Mosque in Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh, is unlike any other. It's the work of architect Marina Tabassum.
I tried to get rid of the symbolic elements in a mosque is because I wanted to, so that this is not only used as a space for prayer, but also for other activities. Social communal activities, that it can encourage that to happen. The fact that it doesn't look like a mosque initially was a barrier. Where's the dome? Where's the minaret? And then, of course, we had to go through the process of telling them that, you know, you don't need a minaret or a dome to make it a mosque. This is the prayer hall. This is the main space of the whole mosque. As you can see, this space was perceived as a pavilion. It is on 8 columns on 8 sides and then converges. So this is where you can see the entrance court. You see the light and the breeze coming in through those walls. It's all naturally ventilated, perforated brickwork. And interestingly, this whole brickwork is load-bearing.
I think this is a unique architecture because in Bangladesh, you hardly find environmental friendly mosque. You see the lights, the air circulations, the layout of the mosque.
I've always been very interested in spirituality as an element in architecture. So you have to enter into a mosque, leave behind your daily worries and and stresses. So it's a kind of a labyrinth that you enter through, and as you walk along into the prayer hall, you leave behind all those things and you sort of try to concentrate. So the space is designed in a way that it does that.
It's certainly unusual to find a woman architect both designing and constructing a mosque.
First and foremost, I don't see myself as a woman in that sense when I'm doing my projects. I'm an architect, and that whole persona as a female somehow vanishes when I'm into my work.
Okay, so Aga Khan Award for Architecture in 2016 had 348 nominations. Over there, the assessment criteria was the project should exhibit not only the architectural excellence, but also the ability to improve the user's overall quality of life. And the project should address the needs and aspiration of communities in which Muslims have a significant presence. By the way, this mosque also got the Zamil Prize, first architect and first architecture ever got this honor. Now, while designing this mosque, architect Marina Tabassum was influenced by the heritage of mosque architecture of Sultanate period of Bengal, but she gave a contemporary look. She focuses on the sustainability and to create a strong connection in between the community, culture, and the heritage of Bengal. The spirituality of this mosque was mainly created with the help of the interplay of light that she brought to the interior spaces through different means and methods. I will explain you in soon. The architect Tabassum said that the quality of space and architecture in the project proves that with the use of local materials and dedicated craftsmen, an attempt towards the spirituality through light can span the distance between here and infinity, between today and eternity. Now, the mosque is distinguished by its lack of popular mosque iconography. It is a very simple and humble approach towards its design, but at the same time, it is a very vibrant and contemplative. And she could manage to do all these things by using of very simple geometry, which is the simplicity is the main essence of our belief in Islam. The abstraction, light, air, and water. Now, as I mentioned you before that the mosque was inspired by the Sultanate Mosque architecture in Bengal, I will give you some little brief about how the mosque used to look like at that time. So the mosque architecture of Bengal is the resultant products of different aspects, the local tradition, history, geography, climate, social, economic condition, many other aspects, and that gave birth to the specific regional architecture which are truly Bengali in style and design. So during the Sultanate period, the mosque architecture got a new expression. The Muslims actually came to Bengal from North India and with a ingenious construction method. But once they are here in Bengal, they gradually influenced by the local method and construction and developed a unique indigenous style. So basically these mosques were a single dome square shaped mosque with a cubical prayer hall, and there were 4 cornered towers. The entrance were from all sides except the Qibla Wall. They were more sympathetic towards the local context and climate. They even adopted the regional Bengali style and culture, the vernacular models. You can see this, the hut, the traditional hut of in our village. They have taken this, the carved features of the huts. They can also implement it in their mosque. So even that time in North India, the mosques were built with the stone. They have even changed that building material, and they have accepted the elaborate brick structure. And that is evident in the surface of those mosques during that time, that there are intricate brick work with mixed with glazed brick, and there were no plaster. Rather than they used to prefer to have terracotta design, which were mainly influenced by the folk arts of Bengal with the help of brick relief. Now, architect Marina Tabassum believes that the buildings are living beings. They breathe, they have a soul of their own, and they age. And these are the her beliefs were expressed through the perforated terracotta brick on the facade, the light that she brought it to the inner sides with the pierced concrete ceilings. So the mosque is an unimposing, inviting, and blending with the surroundings, and that was possible by making it so simple and so inviting for the communities by the use of local materials and with a simplistic form which people can understand, and they can embrace the mosque as the part of their mosque. This is the top view of the mosque, where you can see that there are 3 clear layers of the mosque: the outer peripheral facade area, then there is a cylindrical dome, and then the cubical main prayer hall. This is the plan on the section and the elevation view. Now over here, I'm going to analyze the part of this mosque to make you understand it more. So this is the cuboid, which has been immersed on the cylindrical dome. It has a column-free space. It has got the 8 peripheral columns on 4 sides, and it is being rotated to 13-degree angle to respect the Qibla direction. And you can see that it is so much of resemblance with the simplistic form of the Sultanate Mosque period. This is the model of the same building, showing the over here you can see that the southern entrance. This is the main entrance, which has the colonnade facade. And it provides the outer wall to the inner wall when you're going, and the eastern side has the place of ablution. These are the four sides of the same mosque, and you can see that how simple the mosque has been treated. There is no grand decoration or elaboration. It's the same things has been repeated over and over. And all these things are the perforated brickwork, terracotta brickwork on the exterior facade. Now I'm going to explain how she has brought ingenious way. She has brought the light to the interior of the mosque. As she said that the buildings are living beings, they breathe and they have soul of their own. So to make it happen, the architect has created the pierced ceiling. You can see over here, hundreds of pierced part on the slab, main slab, which is bringing the light to the interior part and creating spiritual feelings to the interior area. This is at night time. You can see that the light is coming from inner to outer side, and those pierced ceiling is visible, clearly visible. And not only that, these are the 4 additional half circular spaces has been created where the natural light, air, and rain, water, everything can come to the interior part, and keeping it as how the building can breathe. This view is showing you the pierced ceilings, which is like this, and when it comes on the floor, it creates this mosaic of light droplets on the floor. These are some other images. Now, even the Qibla direction, this is an omnidirectional space where there is no elaborate mihrab has been created, but the Qibla direction has been created by having just a simple slit on the cylindrical surface, indicating that this is the way we need to pray. This is the Qibla direction, showing you that part. Now, these are the corner, there are 4 corner towers, which is bringing the diffuse light. You can see that on the top it is covered, but it is for the rain and other issues, because rain is a very important climatical issue for our building to control. And then the light is coming from here, and the rainwater is stopped over there. The diffuse light is coming, and there is also a circular pierced on the northeastern side of the building, which is also bringing natural light to the interior spaces. You see the twisting of the angles of the 2 main spatial forms, the cylindrical and the cubical form, has created these courtiers and bringing a diffuse light, and all these lights are cascading through these surfaces of the terracotta building, creating a very spiritual feelings. See that natural lights, how it is creating a kind of a mystical environment to the interior part. This is the circular light, and you can see that the light which is coming, you can see that these are the exterior facade, and this is the part which is from the interior, where how the light is dripping over this perforated and the textured surface, creating a vivid shade and shadow for the interior space. This is sectional elevations, showing you this circular opening to the interior. The exterior surface, which is showing that how building can breathe from the top, from the sides, and so on. This is the half circular things which is created and directly connected to the interior spaces. And as I told you, that the rain is a very important issue, and sometimes it's a problematic issue for our country. Rain happens months together. But here, this is the part she has been raised. And since there is no gusty wind, so the rain does not splash to the interior. Actually, I had a talk to the architect day before yesterday, and I asked her this issue, and she said that so far she did not hear any complaint of this rainwater coming to the interior part. Now, the building materials, the architect has used a very humble local materials to replicate. First of all, the red bricks are replicating the Sultanate period mosque, and it also has reduced the cost since the bricks are very reasonable in our country. And also, not only that, the way that she has placed this building, it is giving the building a scope to breathe with the exquisite perforated terracotta brickwork on the exterior facade. You can see this is the entrance area that is coming. Very simple. There is no elaborate preparation or something like that. These are some other areas of this mosque. You see that she has kept the benches also on the corridor so that people can rest, and even before the prayer they can come and wait here. They can have a community connection with the people around them. Now, as I told you, that community context and the culture. So the architect has embraced the community very nicely. So she believes that mosque is not only a place for worship, it also embraces the community. Now this place has become a place for meeting people, community center for any kind of events or gathering. There's a madrasa for the kids. It's an informal playground. So the architectural brilliance and the humble simplicity actually bringing the community together. And she has raised the plinth because of the problem of the flooding. So with this raised platform, with the steps, also created a place for the people to rest, to talk, to communicate with the neighbors, people, and to interact with the kids and elders, with the young kids. So it's a wonderful environment all day long. So you can see that even few months before there was an art exhibition. It was held on this platform. So besides the praying, there are lots of things are happening to this part, and you can see on this right hand side the students who were active at one time, and now they're very tired and they're taking nap in between their classes. And these are some other images of the ustads and the students. And I would end by saying that architect proved that with the quality of the space and architecture, with the use of local materials and dedicated craftsmanship, and through innovative methods of bringing light to the interior space, a divine spirituality can be created, can be developed, a bridge can be created between here and infinity, between today and eternity. I will end my presentation with a verse of light from Surah Noor, 35 verse 24 Surah. The verse is distinguished for the mystical beauty of light and its metaphoric explanation. Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. The example of his light is like a niche within which is a lamp. The lamp is within glass, and the glass as if it is were a pearly star, lit from a blessed olive tree, neither of the east nor of the west, whose oil would almost glow even if untouched by fire. Light upon light, Allah guides to his light whom he wills. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Fariel, for the presentation and wonderful virtual tour of an Aga Khan Award project. And that project really shows us a very good example of indigenous and vernacular architecture within the context. Let's continue our lecture series with the fourth presentation of the day. Our next speaker is our senior colleague, Associate Professor, Dr. Islam El Ghonaimy. Dr. Islam completed his BSc in Architecture from Alexandria University, Egypt. He holds a Master's in Environmental Studies from Institute of Graduate Studies and Research, Alexandria University. He completed his PhD in Architecture Engineering from Al-Mansoura University, joint venture, Ohio State University, USA in 2008. Dr. Islam activities are in the field of culture, antiquities, and heritage. He was associated with the Al-Turath Award Prince Sultan bin Salman Foundation during 2012 to 2016. Consultant in Asila Culture Annual Festival, Ministry of Tourism, Morocco in 2017, and reviewer in the first and second Heritage Conference for the Saudi Commission for Tourism and National Heritage in Riyadh. We welcome Dr. Islam for his presentation on the revival of courtyard consolidation in mosque architecture. Dr. Islam, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. Mr. Fariel, please, can you stop presentation in your file since I can present my file, please?
Yes, we can see you, Dr. Islam. You can share your presentation now.
Yes. Is it now clear?
Not yet. We can see your computer screen. Yes, it is here. Okay. Thank you very much. You can start.
First of all, I would like to welcome you all, and I would like to thank you very much for the organizing this wonderful event. Really, I learned a lot from this presentation from all of our colleagues, and let me continue what Mrs. Fariel presented a few minutes ago. It's an amazing presentation. I acknowledge her part because I will continue about one single part of the design elements in the mosque architecture, about the courtyard. The title of my presentation is about the revival of courtyard consolidations in mosque architecture, and it is joint venture with Dr. Dalia Dardiri. First of all, I would like to support or to continue what the previous presentation with my dearest colleague Ms. Fariel about the rule of mosque. The masjid or mosque is not only the hub for practicing the main element of Islam, which is the praying only, but also it has significant message in our rule in socio-economic and environmental in the Islamic society. And it is one of the major plays that to show the Islam is a way of life. It's not only religion issues like what a few minutes ago presented in her presentation, and I will take the line and continue about that. The regular in the mosque, it is not only the part of having the 5 prayers, especially in Jum'ah times. We find that most of the mosques in most of the Islamic countries have practice the 5 prayers as well as in the Jum'ah time, and for a long time ago, and even in some of the recent mosques, the courtyard was there to manage the using of the mosque. And the point here, it will come in the presentation, that the point of recalling the courtyard is to be in the mosques as sustainable design elements appear in our part. Therefore, the methodology or the way of dealing with this subject, it come to discuss about the significance or the importance of in terms of social privacy or function or environmental in the coming slides to show the this part. We can see here in different mosques in all over the world, it is especially in Jum'ah time, we can find people are praying outside the mosque. And in some countries, we find a place that it is a courtyard, which could be extension for the mosque. And this court in between between the mosque components, it could be used for practice the praying when the prayers number are over the capacity of the all of the praying hall. In some example, like what we see in front of us, we can find that some mosques, when they end or they have many prayer, they go to sit outside the mosque, and it is not a proper way to practice the mosque. But in other parts, we can see here in the front of us for this example, in Pakistan, for example, we can find the interacting between the mosque and the social in terms of teaching and practice some of the rules. We can find here in some example, for example, in Malaysia, they are practice lessons about advertising, about some commercial activity, social activity, and which make the connecting between the mosque and the urban context in interacting. In fact, and let me emphasize about something, that practice commercial activity, it's not inside the mosque, but it is an external part of the Malaysian mosques in this example. But it showed that when people go to pray and come out after the pray the 5 times, they can find some different activity and so on. So the mosque here in some parts, it's not only for pray, as all of us know. So the focusing here about the courtyard, which is the courtyard, it is it's a place inside the building in general, and this courtyard could it is open to sky and could be partially closed in terms of if we have summer hot in summer or rains or whatever, but it is a place that let's say it's a large lobby or a place to, especially in mosque, a place to gather the people after they finish they pray. They can go out and discuss discuss with loud voice or whatever, طبعا respecting to the inner space of practicing the praying. This is as for professional people, all of us know what's the meaning of courtyard, but just I would like to do it like that, gathering some information or presenting some information about the shape of courtyard in different shapes, just a background about the having open area, let's say open area in between buildings. Courtyard in religion buildings, it's well known, it's not recent or related to Muslim country or Muslim religion. It is before, and it's long time ago, and we have some examples. It is about 3,000 years before centuries. It is like we can see here in Mesopotamia, and again it is in Egyptian heritage as well as in Roman and the Greeks. And here we can find it had been developed in some of the mosques in a shape of they call it in Sahn al-Masjid, or the courtyard inside the mosque. The developing of using the courtyard in the mosque here, it is like let's say it is a positive space that to gather people at the beginning, and they make like transition place or transition space from outside from the all social civic activity and so on. So it is, let's say, preparing people when they go inside and do al-wudu and then go inside the mosque. This is very important, that special-wise to make like transition for people to go inside the sense of practicing the prayers. We can see here in some of examples in the mosque. It is in Tunisia. I will go softly with some examples to show that there is a place, or this courtyard. It is spread from long time. It is in a place of like this mosque. It is in Kairouan in Tunisia, and the second part, which is Al-Azhar Mosque in Egypt. In fact, the court in this Al-Azhar Mosque, it has different activity. For example, most of the decision about war, about policy, about let's say about even commercial decisions or decisions which was related to the life inside Cairo or Egypt in that time, it was taken inside in this mosque. And it was especially in this part in Al-Azhar when they took many decisions about, especially for the decisions that related to the Ummah in general. As well as it was used like a madrasa, as the previous colleagues presented, that they have places to teach not only the religion lessons, but it extended to go for many of the science for the community. So the rule here in Al-Azhar Mosque, it has, or it had in that time, different approach. It was like a heart of the city inside this, or hub to include all the activity within this. We have in Bahrain, Al-Ghonaimy Mosque, it has a courtyard as well, and it was located nearby the social complex and commercial activities, and it was a center in that part. We have another examples in many places. I'm just going softly to show it here about the location of this mosque, which is has a different, let's say, and significant functions. Here in the Blue Mosque, we can see in this part how far it is equal the all space of the mosque. If we have this photo in front of us, we can find people are gathering inside it as a transition. They can talk and discuss, and even doing praying time, doing ablution or wudu in that time. Ibn Tulun as well here in the mosque in Egypt, it was a long time, and still in the recent time practice the same functions. In the contemporary here, we find a very promising mosque. They took the courtyard and developed the vision of having a courtyard like this is in Bangladesh. This is a wonderful example of Shanjon Mosque. It is very nice that in terms of gathering people, especially within before and after Salah. And we have here Al-Waraqa Mosque in UAE. We can see here some part outdoor and indoor which related to this part, as well as we have other examples in recent time, and it is very successful. Here, if in this example, it is in Germany, they develop the rule or the function of the mosque in a nice approach. It is they make like a complex. It is like what we see here in the plan. They have this mosque inside, and they have this courtyard in between, or this space area in between, and they allocate all the medical and the schools and the place to discuss and library with this example, which is a very successful example from my point of view within the recent mosque, especially of the role of urban community, to serve urban community. Here in Sheikh Salma Mosque in UAE as well, and it was in the second cycle winners in Abdul Latif Al Fawzan Award. It was one of the successful examples, especially if we are talking about its role in serving the community. Mainly, I'm emphasizing about having courtyard. It's not only environmental part, but as well as for the social interacting with the surrounding urban context. We have here in this mosque, it is a nice solution that they gather most of the activity in around this mosque. Now it is about talking the emphasis on the courtyard give is the name of the architecture of the veil, because it's focused on the inner space, yard and social spaces, which are not visible from outside. Courtyard Mosque is an architecture device with the long history, as we can see in the examples had been presented here. Moreover, about having a courtyard, it gives a sort of identity for the space itself, for the building itself. It is very significant when we go to talk about having identity, to show to how far the places here has its unique space. I did this chart just to show the significance or the role of this mosque with the courtyard. It's about to enhancing the environment and ecological rules. It has a social in terms of gathering people after and before. It was, and as well as to have notes about what's going on in the life. It's social interacting. It's not. It is to connect between people, especially when they are having a time in the safe and secure the place without any interrupting within this space of in the front of the mosque after they finish their prayer, as well as they can do some or practice some commercial activity outside the border of the mosque, and as well as it has a sense of belonging, because when people would like to go and use this place and feel this place are belonging to them and they are belonging to this place, so they enter action here. It's become like some attractive inside the soul. Spiritual wise, it is very important. As we can see, or we saw it before, it is in Al-Azhar, it is a place of practice, most of the social interacting and in this place. But in case if we have no courtyard, as some of the examples what we have it here in many places in the mosque all over the world here, especially if we have inside the urban context. If we have a place with no courtyard, so that people, they approach the mosque, do ablution, pray, and then when they open the door of the mosque, they will back directly to the civil life. The transition here is a transition area here is missing, as well as the gathering between people is missing. If, for example, if our life here, in especially with this our pandemic these days, the most of the mosques are closed. That because they were not, let's say, ready for this pandemic. But we can imagine that most of the notices could be directly and announced to people via this courtyard. It might be useful for people, especially if we are talking about the WHO notes about social distance and they encourage using the outdoor spaces. They said that in their notice that not only social distance about this 1.5 or 2 meters, rather than to have open spaces as much as they can, and they encourage using open spaces in the daily life. So again, the courtyard here play positive in having such notes, especially with these circumstances. We can see this example. It is inside one of the example I brought it here. It is inside the urban context, but it is injection within the area. When someone is open the door of this mosque class, it will go to the transition area here. It is missing. We can see here in this example, it's nice that to have place to have a general apparition, and then they discuss and meet each other to know each other. If someone is there, it's not there, absent, someone would like to have a knowledge, someone would like to practice his social and interacting life. There are, let's make some conclusion of this part. There are many calls for enhancing the social conditions of Muslim community. So if really we need to present one of the key solutions in the Muslim community problem, the first step should start from developing the role of the mosque. Because as we said before, the mosque is not only a place for prayer, it is a hub of social, economic and interaction between people. I believe that courtyard has significant role in the subject, especially when we call for sustainable, because we can find socio-economic and environmental rules and benefit from having this courtyard, and not necessarily about the volume, not necessarily to have it's a large or small, but the existing of the transition area, it's important. And it became like a resilience for the mosque typology that responding to the needs of a small contemporary life. End of my presentation, I would like to acknowledge the award of Abdulatif Al-Fawzan for provide us with the valuable examples that were used in this research, because I had the opportunity to be within this award for more than 6 years now, and really I get a lot of knowledge and experience when I dealing with this award. Thank you very much for my presentation, for listening for my presentation. I know it is short, but I try to make it a conclusion. Thank you very much of this.
Thank you very much, dear Dr. Islam, for your wonderful presentation and taking short time. You have a very good presentation which shows a significant role of courtyard in a mosque design. So the last, but hopefully not the least, our next presenter of the event is our dear colleague, Dr. Wafa AlMadani. Dr. Wafa AlMadani holds both Associate Diploma and BSc in Architectural Engineering from University of Bahrain. She completed her Master's and PhD from the same university, University of Sheffield, UK. Her Master's is in Architecture and Landscape Design. The title of her PhD thesis was Public Open Spaces in Bahrain, the Potential for Transcultural Conviviality. Dr. Wafa is an assistant professor and coordinator of landscape architecture program in the Department of Architecture and Interior Design of University of Bahrain. Dr. Wafa is a reviewer in a number of journals. Her research interest focuses on the role of public open spaces and the role of landscape planning, design and management in supporting different outdoor leisure cultural practices and promoting well-being and sense of belonging in cities. We welcome Dr. Wafa AlMadani for her presentation on maintaining tolerance by design in transcultural Islamic cities, stories from everydayness urban heritage site in Bahrain. Welcome, Dr. Wafa.
Thank you, Mrs. Aisha. I will try to make it short.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you will enjoy the few coming minutes. I turn on my camera. Is it working, Mrs. Aisha?
Yes, it is working. You can share your presentation, so I will confirm.
Let me share my presentation.
Can you please maximize the screen, Dr. Wafa? It is appearing. Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, is it shared now? Is it?
Yes, it is,
Okay.
yes.
Before starting, I would like to thank the organizers for arranging this symposium and for the interesting themes. My paper reflects the recent social and cultural dynamics in the Islamic region and meanings of tolerance in urban contexts. In my paper titled Maintaining Tolerance by Design in Transcultural Islamic Cities, Stories from Everyday Urban Heritage Sites in Bahrain, I am presenting some findings from landscape-led research as an attempt to explore how design and management of outdoor spaces in Islamic cities can support the concept of tolerance, focusing on socio-spatial design qualities. UNESCO Career Magazine, which is a platform for global understanding, has posted in bold that Islamic art is a form of intercultural dialogue and can celebrate in its first International Day its ability in building bridges between people. The history of Islam concerns with political, social, economic, and cultural development of Islamic civilization. This also reminds us that until recently, we have seen the role of mosques, for example, in intercultural dialogue, even in the period of conflicts in the region, which maintain peace and supports development in cities with the intention of mediating between different groups. Islamic art is considered to be inclusive, reflecting the map of Islamic cities. And this is supported by the presentation of my colleagues in this symposium and the case studies from different geographical regions. These are some figures representing Islamic architecture and art from different countries. Some of these patterns have distinguished cultural geographical connotations, and you may easily recognize them. In a country like Bahrain, having architecture elements or artistic features in public open spaces inspired by these images would be familiar to Bahraini and also non-Bahraini residents from certain geographical contexts such as Asia, Middle East, and North Africa, which may provide connection and bonding. With evolving cultures on theories on transcultural cities have emerged to help understanding both cultural transformation and hybridity, how built environments and local spaces influence adaptation in which new forms of attachment developed. The theories focus on experiences of people and socio-spatial temporal association in the transcultural process. The discourses of transcultural cities has developed with super diversity in modern cities. Mrs. Aisha, I am moving my slides. Does it show?
Yes, it is showing, Dr. Wafa. You continue.
The term super diversity emphasizes the complexity of diversity and intersectionality of gender, religion, age, migration, generation, ideologies, and the list goes on. And interesting, the studies also included responsibility, social responsibility, and patterns of life to shape such diversity. Tolerance is about respecting and recognition of such diversity. How the urban spaces with local Islamic cultural identity can respond to this complexity in the outdoor spaces, and not that only, but also to build bridges and develop attachments. Under the scope of my research in relation to the theories on transcultural urbanism and conviviality, being outdoor is a leisure practice that promotes well-being. The tolerance in Islamic or in urban spaces means that public spaces should be inclusive, support different patterns of social, cultural, outdoor leisure with meanings of respect and sociability, sense of belonging and feeling welcome and comfortable. Diversity in Bahrain is not something new, though even the diversity in the history was much less in quantity than today's. The sustained heritage neighborhoods with the juxtaposition of religious institutions have stayed as a witness for such hybridity, which is part of heritage in Bahrain. Hospitality in Bahrain is deeply rooted in Arab and Islamic cultures. Socializing, gathering, greeting strangers on the way, and sharing food are significant codes in Islam. For example, Islam advocates its followers to exchange salutation with people they may encounter. For example, in a street, a rider should greet a pedestrian should greet one who is sitting, and a small party should greet a large party. A younger should greet an older one. In my paper, I argue that supporting permeability of these social practices would support positive social meaning encounters with meanings which maintain tolerance ethos of Islam. To explore how spatial design qualities are maintaining tolerance, in this paper, I would like to focus on the findings from 3 urban heritage sites that received investment with regard to design and management for both restoration and recreation, with the aim that these urban sites are open to both tourists and local. These sites reflect Arab Islamic culture and architecture. I also investigated the informal and mundane open spaces in the immediate surrounding context to have more in-depth reflection of the socio-spatial qualities of the selected, designed, and managed spaces. In my research, I followed qualitative approach using cultural competency tools of storytelling and ethnographic tools and participant-led approach. In the findings, the diversity of population in Bahrain is reflected in the open spaces where different spatial and temporal patterns of views are visible. In-depth meaningful encounters for being outdoors shown in the participant stories. For example, in Bab al-Bahrain, which is a historical public space and souk, the data showed a transcultural and shared sense of belonging to local heritage amongst non-Bahraini and Bahrainis. The site has authentic social values and attachments for Bahraini, particularly for the older generations. For example, a Bahraini participant said, "I am so attached to this souk, I can't explain it because this is something that cannot be expressed. The age I lived here and my memories linked me to the space." Non-Bahraini participants also narrated their memories of home countries and describing current experiences. This shows connection between their experiences of home and host country in hybrid form. A restorative value appeared in this busy street or souk. Many users choose to escape and have some getaway time and connected to home country here or to their childhood memories. The users always relate their practice of lingering around to save convenient pedestrianized spaces in the area and the provided different activities, which provide this sense of attachment and connection to the heritage space. The second case study, the Pearling Trail in a UNESCO World Heritage Site in Muharraq, the project is provided with significant macro public open spaces in the sites of some historical houses. Supported by the pedestrianized spaces and the egalitarian benches, the concept of socializing with others and among diverse others in these historical neighborhood and streets promoted sense of belonging to an Islamic heritage site and also with others. One of the participants mentioned that he feels sense of belonging as others often greet him in his way when taking a shortcut through these public open spaces. Residents also talked about the accessibility during different times of the day. For a Bahraini woman enjoying the morning sun, for workers at night after their long working hours, and for users with wheelchair to enjoy lingering outdoor. Next is Hanania Context, a unique context heritage site with a natural desert and a fort which are valued by many users. But people visit the space repeatedly because there is a park that is facilitated with activities and elements such as picnic pods, benches, sport areas, walkway, vending activities that support their outdoor leisure practices. Having a formal green space in desert location reconnect with desert heritage through replicating its patterns of leisure and sociability in the provided park. In the next couple of slides, I want to show two fleeting but important examples of tolerance in well-designed gardens in Bahrain. Here, I would like to clarify that all the photos in the research were taken by me, so I can relate the story of the physical characteristic in each occasion. For example, these photos show that the affordances of design and management of a green space with their trees and grassy tree areas and provided shaded seating offer a cool space in a warm climate in which workers from the surrounding area during their duty can have their lunch break. This has created a convivial experience. And here, the affordances of design having spatial choices for women regarding privacy or being visible. This is also a meaningful in terms of respect. However, it is not always possible to provide parks or gardens in some congested areas, but it might be possible to facilitate the sidewalk or pedestrianized streets for users, which is also a creative design solution that respect and respond to social and physical diversity. The research finds that urban heritage spaces are inclusive and that protecting heritage does not conflict with the transcultural process. A special care to be given to the niches of sociability in urban form and fabric, in souk, in traditional coffee, in front of houses, and in front of the mosques, which reflect Arabic Islamic culture. In these heritage streets, both permeability and walkability qualities are supported by each other and are maintaining tolerance. The role of design appeared in the user's perceptions and experiences, the well-designed pavement, benches, the artistic features, planting, shading devices, waters. Users were very conscious about the qualities of these landscape elements, which support alternative outdoor leisure, social, restorative activities in a safe, comfortable, permeable, convenient environment. I will end with this quote. The nuances of meanings of mundane encounters are complex and invisible, reflecting different individuals' perception and identities. Their importance, however, should not be ignored, as these meanings are relevant to an individual's well-being. Being able to spend the time outdoors in urban heritage sites developed senses of attachments and belonging with these local Arab Islamic heritage and a transcultural process between here and there, between now and past, that would also be applicable to Islamic art and architecture, which requires thoughtful planning, design, and management of surrounding public open outdoor spaces. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wafa AlMadani, for your excellent presentation on the urban heritage and how we can see the transcultural, overlapping with the heritage, with the architecture and different spaces with the community engagement. Now we would like to have our question answer round. I would try to not take it very long. Thank you very much for all the presenters. There are very good comments, very good appreciation in our question answer chat box for all of the participants. So we would like to start our first question with Dr. Fatema. It was a very interesting topic, Dr. Fatema. And the question is that, do you see the prototype of House of Wisdom to be implemented in contemporary context? Can we think of cultural hub as one representation of it? How can we link the values embedded back then in our today's lifestyle and ideologies? Dr. Fatema?
Thank you very much for all of your presentations. For me, it was each one of those presentations was really informative and opened my eyes into different perspectives of understanding Islamic design and Islamic architecture. So thank you very much, all of you. Answering this question, I think one of the answers can be the project that I have designed. We have designed with Safa Al-Flaji. There are two ways to look at this prototype. You either rethink the whole idea of the building in the modern context. For example, is it a culture? You can look at the functions of the space and modernize it in a cultural center. But you can look at what we did with Safa was another thing. We looked at the original function of the building, why this building have been built. Actually, the building was have been built by Harun al-Rashid to bring, as you notice, there are so many science knowledge, mathematics started much more before Islamic Empire. So they wanted to bring those knowledge, science, history, math, stories, all of them into Arabic language in order for the Arabic language to be able to continue this legacy of improving and developing in knowledge. So what they created this building that worked mainly, or the main idea was translating those books. But it was not enough for them. Translating means reflecting on that knowledge, means thinking about this knowledge, means practicing this knowledge, means connecting the community to this knowledge. So the other functions brought up together to this center. So what we thought with Safa was that we are suffering from this problem today. The Arabic language is not weak, not to be able to be the modern, or the language for the new science and knowledge. So we need such a center that translates the new knowledge into Arabic language to be able to bring that legacy again. So the idea was that it is an Arabic modern library, that a big part of that library is for the translator and the researcher and the people who are interested to bring the new knowledge into Arabic language. Then the idea of connecting community was reflected in different other components, like the children components, the workshop components, Apple Today apartment, and so on. So you can take it in several ways. You can take it in several contexts, and that's why I was saying we need to understand the Islamic philosophy behind bringing different functions together. So this can give us a different perspective of thinking about the buildings.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fatma, for your detailed explanation in the response of that question. There is one question I really would like to have your brief idea about this response. This is that what are the modern interior design guidelines used in both Safa project and the digital museum project in reflecting the Islamic identity in our modern ways? Although you have described briefly in your first response, but how would you target to this answer quickly?
Maybe for this question, I can give two examples about the details we did them to modernize the furniture. And maybe to just give another answer, for example, we use verses from the Quran like وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. We used this verse to modernize the way we think about circulation as water that fit into different components and using using augmented reality. And then we design chairs that can stimulate human senses through having different the chair changes its texture to give you a different feeling when you read a book, or it has got also an area for eating, so it simulates all the senses. However, I can then post the project itself. There is so many details on how we modernize the interior. I think we don't have time for all of that details.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Fatema, for all your responses. My next question is for Dr. Hana. That is a very interesting question, actually. Your topic, what you raised in your presentation, that really plays an important role in the way we shape our buildings and interiors today. So in your opinion, Dr. Hana, why do modern houses avoiding courtyard houses today?
Hello, yes. Actually, thank you, Dr. Nihal. It's a very interesting question, and it is really something we really need to think about it. But I think there is many aspects can affect the availability of courtyard houses in terms of the climate as a factor, because the climate can play a very important role. Now we are all relying on mechanical systems in order to cool down and heat down the building. So mainly the availability of courtyard will take a big amount of the house. However, the utilization will be just a few months per year. And if I'm going to implement the sustainable aspect in order to increase the ventilation, the cooling system, or the passive, it won't be affordable by people. So climate affect a lot and the disappearing of courtyard within our space. So even if I have the opportunity to have a courtyard within my home, then I will just utilize it 4 to 6 months per year. The other aspect is also the minimum of land use. Now the houses has become smaller than before. So, and the people have a certain budget, so they need to have, we are having extended family in our region. So I need to utilize as much as I can from the land in order to have many rooms, many area to socialize under the harsh weather. So having a big part, if you can see that the courtyard has a huge amount of the land size, but now if I'm going to have it, it won't be any, let's say, practical for me with my family now, because I need to have an individual room maybe for each one of the kids. So this is like, there is also other aspects, but according to my belief, this two reason was a very important to be in consideration. And if we will really want to go to have the courtyard again, we need to think another aspect that can minimize the effect of the harsh weather. Thank you.
May I add something with Dr. Hana's
yes.
answer? I believe that also now the government rules of having a front side setback, back side setback, that with all those requirements, the spaces are becoming so tight. So they are, instead of having those internal courtyard, what Dr. Hana said, now it's there is a front yard and back yard, and it is not only by the choice, it is a kind of a rule for the government. You have to give these things. But in before it was not like that. The whole building was taking the outer part of the site. So they could afford to have that courtyard inside, and it was all based on passive cooling and controlling. Temperature has to be based on passive cooling and other things. So those courtyards played a big role.
Yeah, and actually also the maintenance of courtyard can also play a role. We need to give it full attention when it's in the middle of our house, how the maintenance, how we can do the raining, the circulation of this water there. It's lots of complexity that I don't think the people now with their business can tackle it anymore. Okay, thank you. Yeah. I think there is another question. Your mic is mute, Ms. Aisha.
Sorry. Thank you for reminding. Thank you very much, Mrs. Fariel and Dr. Hana. Yes, if by considering the current situation of COVID-19, Dr. Hana, how do you see the aspect of privacy changing in domestic design?
Well, very interesting question. And actually it has, I can read the question from different side. So I will answer according to my understanding. First of all, we agree in the beginning of my lecture that the requirement and the need of the privacy will vary from person to person, from belief to another belief, from a gender side, from even the age. So we all agree that sometimes the privacy is very like a strong requirement when I have a specific belief, and sometimes it's not. And even the age and gender will all play a very important role in the importance of a privacy. When it comes to the COVID-19, we agree that COVID-19 is inshallah will be, and we will not live with the COVID-19 forever, but it gives us a hint in designing our house. Maybe the need of the privacy can increase in some area and for some family, because they start to utilize their house not just to accommodate them or sleeping or even just having their meals. Now they start to have activity within the house. So having an area that can link them inside and outside may become a mandatory, not an optional anymore. So we can find that some people start to have a small garden. They start to look into this garden, having it shaded. So I think they need also to increase the privacy matter, even if it is not a strong need for them, but they want to socialize without being observed. And this may happen in any culture. So the increase of the privacy, in my opinion, the need of the visual privacy may increase with the need of the current situation. So that's right. I feel it has an influence. The current situation play an important role, and we notice this from many among our society, that the people start to have additional, they start to either utilize their roof garden or utilize, if they have a small garden outside, giving it more care with additional of the privacy aspect. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hana. Yes, I do agree that we can see the role of privacy in the design. It is now complementary, in this current context. My next question is to Mrs. Layla. Thank you very much for the illuminating lecture. The changing role of the dome is made possible because of the innovative achieved in construction and new modern softwares. But what do you think that what other skills does it take also to go beyond the limits?
I do believe this question coming from Dr. Nihal. So
yes,
thank you, Dr. Nihal, for this question. I agree with you that technology will play important role in shaping the future of the mosque. And technology was never strange or foreign for the builders traditionally throughout the centuries. We are talking about more than 1,400 years. So, but I also really truly believe that besides the technology, we should not forget about the essential role of the mosque and that spiritual importance. So beside technology, the essence of Islam should be reflected, and that intangible factors that we talk about it, you talk about it, Aisha, to a certain extent, and I mentioned it during my presentation today, of feelings and perception and sense of the identity should be always preserved. So regardless of the moving to the future, regardless of the usage of the technology, I do believe this is something which is very important. It has to be present in the design of a future mosque and a modern contemporary mosque as well.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Layla, for your response. Yes, I do agree with that. So our next appreciation, comment and question goes to Mrs. Fariel. So Mrs. Fariel, this question is actually asked by Dr. Tamadar. The examples you have shown are almost the same as she's showing in her history of Islamic architecture and interior. So students that we normally, they end up with a discussion of what makes a space spiritual in the context of Islam. We do have a collective memory that many people are attached to regarding how a mosque should look like, that often is associated with spirituality. In your opinion, what are the elements that can help facilitating special spirituality in the space? In design, sorry.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tamatar, for the question. And I know that we all are discussing things with the students, and the students are asking some questions which are very interesting. The thing is, the spirituality is the human feelings, and as I also mentioned, and we all know that architects are the creator of creating the ambience, and these feelings, different ambience creates different kinds of mental state. For example, when you are going to the fast food shop, the bright light, the colorful things gives a kind of a feeling. But when we are going to a very restaurant where there's a subdued light, it will have a different kind of feeling. But both the cases we are eating. Now, when we are talking about the spirituality is a kind of a mysterious thing, a kind of mystery that can be created with a special form, color. These are the building elements, the special form, the volume and other things. And when something is coming unknowingly, that creates the mystery. So when the lights are coming to the mosque in a diffused manner, not in a direct manner, that creates, I believe that it creates a kind of a feeling that it's not, you cannot define it. What is it? And this feelings which you cannot define, that brings the mystery, that brings the spiritual feelings. And it is actually spiritual feelings is something that people are having in their mind. So when they are entering to a space with that kind of mysterious light, little bit dark and other things, there they can do the meditation. So as an architect, the building form, the way they are placing, the way they are bringing the lights to the interior spaces, that is going to create the spiritual moment, and that will help to the spirituality to the people. And the rest is, of course, is the person and the connection with the Almighty.
Thank you, Mrs. Farial. I do agree that to bring spirituality in the space, it is quite challenging for any designer. Even if you are working for an architecture design, as you showed us very beautiful example of mosque in Dhaka, or someone is working for interior spaces quality to bring the sense of spirituality. So I would like to ask next question to my dear senior colleague, Dr. Islam. Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. I would like to know that as part or being part of the Al Fawzan Award Association, so when you were selecting projects for the best award, I wanted to know that how, I mean, educational contribution as an academic you experienced, to be a judge in that, because that was very interesting that you have very good experience, almost 3 to 4 years working with that position.
Okay, thank you very much for this question. Yes, in fact, when had been started long time ago, it was, by the way, it was part for the Heritage Award by Prince Sultan bin Salman. It was starting about 9 years ago, about to care about mosque heritage. And then it developed and sponsored by Abdul Latif Al Fawzan to do this award. And in the beginning, it was to nomination. It was selected from each country, one of specialists, and select the mosques according to certain criteria. This is related to the selection for the award itself. And after that, the second part, it was nominating from, it was first started by the Saudi Arabia and then GCC, and then it opened for the Islamic world. And as they did this nice library, the library there, it's very strong, and it includes a lot of mosque experience. If you are talking about the educational or the academic branch, exactly, it last one especially, it was by in this Kuala Lumpur, it was selected that from all over the Islamic countries, the nominations, then they start each one of the professional doctors, they select about 5 mosques in different part of the world, and we had a trip, a special trip. These trips we visit some mosques, and we did a report, and all of this gathered in the library there about experience. As a few minutes ago to Dr. Wafa, when she said that I did this photo by myself, and Miss Fariel as well, when she present a mosque which is belonging to the social she lived in, all of us, we try to do this experience by ourselves. We did a visit, we talked especially with people and see how far the impact of the social impact for this mosque in the community. And we put in the website for them this experience. It was documented by films, documented by recording, documented by text and photo by ourselves. And all of this has been in the website for them. You can, if you approach the Fawdan Award, you can do it in a very maturity-wise. And this is effort had been done by volunteering from all over the group work in that time. I hope that I answered this part. I don't know if you would like to have more.
Yes, Doctor. Yes, Dr. Islam. Thank you very much. I really wanted to hear your experience, and as we are colleagues in University of Bahrain, I think we are all very proud that, mashallah, you have participated in two of very important Islamic award association or organization like Al-Turat Foundation and Al-Fuzan Award Foundation. Our next question is for our last speaker, Dr. Wafa AlMadani. Very good presentation, Dr. Wafa AlMadani. I think I have a couple of questions for you. People are very excited to ask you some of the queries. I would like to start with a very interesting question, which is asked by Dr. Manal. Thank you, Dr. Wafa, for addressing this topic, idea of belonging to urban heritage. It would be interesting to examine this with the new generation. Sadly, many of our students these days surprisingly have not been to Babul Bahrain area, Manama or Souk before. And normally we see this practice, and whenever we give them any assignment, which is related in some of the traditional area of Bahrain, and we are really surprised when they say, oh, we never been to this place. So I think these projects actually encourage them to visit the traditional and historical places of Bahrain. So the question from Ms. Abi, in your opinion, what are the main design elements or factors that lead to tolerance in design? Is it only physical elements provided by the government, or what is your point of view?
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Aisha. Thank you, Dr. Manal, for this interesting question. This is very important, and when we are talking about, first we know that public open spaces have important social values and cultural values that promote well-being among diverse users, even in the context with super diversity. It is very important. And this paper, it shows like these open spaces is not just important for leisure activities, but also it built a connection and belonging between the people and the space and other people as well. In a context like Bab al-Bahrain, from my research, and I know that Bab al-Bahrain now is going through restoration and rehabilitation in a way, like the new projects, the new open spaces will be built. And the aim here is to open that projects for the tourists as well as for the public. And as usual, and maybe this is also will answer another question for other colleague, from the audience. And usually the projects of public open spaces, they are not short-term, they are long-term projects. And that's why it is also important to include these long-term projects with some what we call it programming, and with what we call it tactical urbanism. And this was very obvious in Bab al-Bahrain. In Bab al-Bahrain, for example, area, there are a lot of programming is going on, and we can see a lot of a new generation. But what we need more in these areas is to have more activities that support inclusivity amongst different generation, old and new. So this, we are looking forward to see these kind of activities in the coming projects, and the development of the projects in a way that it attracts more generation. But the area is under a process, and now through my field visit, when I go to the Bab al Bahrain at different time season, we can see young generation, either they are arranging a program or they are coming and visiting. And we had also, I remember one of the projects that happens in that space, in a way they pedestrianized the whole space. And it was like a tactical urbanism approach, pedestrianized the whole space, and it was temporal activity. It was not throughout, it was just from 6 to 6 in a way, it will be more accessible for more people and supported. Accessibility here is also another approach. So yes, we need more activities to attract more people from different sectors of the society. And this is why I think I answered Dr. Manali's question. Dr. or Ms. Abir question is about the design elements, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. From the presentation, we know first, the open spaces, the informal open spaces that are designed, for example, in these 3 cases, are supporting the parks and gardens. Here, I want to highlight an important point. Parks and gardens are important in terms of leisure, and they are having different patterns of leisure than urban spaces and streets. And both of them are supporting each other and supporting inclusivity and differences in the cultural leisure practices. And also as supporting temporal, the temporal approach of leisure, for example, each part or each typology would be serving in certain time. And the urban spaces, why they are very important? Because they are open at all the time. And supporting, and her question is about the design elements in the streets, and we find in these urban heritage, how just supporting these urban heritage with the concept or with the quality of walkability and benches, increasing number of benches in these open spaces, and having some programming similar to things happening now in Bab al Bahrain. And also we have another case, we have a pedestrian quarter in Bahrain and Adliya in 338, and usually the pedestrian area is having some programming. This is also supported by other cases outside Bahrain, which the time is not enough now to talk about other cases. But what I want to mention here, that the landscape elements and urban streets would support being outdoor and support the tolerance in a way people will feel comfortable being outdoor. And one important thing here also, which will also answer the question of Abir, diversity is very complex now. So we cannot say the concept of tolerance similar or stemmed from conviviality. We cannot leave it for people, because with diversity, people would have different cultural expectations. And the role now of design and management of these spaces is to support different cultural expectation, to support the practice of being outdoor. And supporting different cultural expectation cannot be in one space. It's possible maybe to provide some inclusivity in one space, but we should also think about planning, design, and management in some informal spaces, designing, for example, some parks, and we can also see designing of some streets, and planning in which provide alternative of open spaces. Parks and garden, different typologies of streets would also all support the concept of tolerance. And if she's saying if the question is also if it is provided or by the government, we can find now the approach also in the government or the public is this kind of the collaboration between the government and the private sectors in supporting or providing different activities, and also programming of these outdoor spaces. And all these activities were very successful. Is there any question?
Thank you very much. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you very much, Dr. Hafa. I think it's a very good talk where we can see the role of a designer when they are working with a project. So they are also involved with the planning and management stage or with those people. And I think the next question which is asked from you, it is also related with the idea of sustainable approach, as you mentioned that how walkability can, develop this sustainable urban spaces. So the next question is from Ms. Haneen. She's asking that in your presentation, you talked about the design parks here in Bahrain. So are all of them is designed to achieve sustainability here in Bahrain? And what do you think for them?
Okay. In my presentation, I was focusing on streets. Okay, but I bring some examples that also the design and management of parks and gardens is supporting the idea of tolerance and how design of management of outdoor spaces is supporting tolerance. And the question is if about the parks and garden. Here, I think the question is about parks and garden and sustainability. Increasing number of parks or green spaces, if the focus is about the green spaces, increasing number of green spaces in cities is supporting the concept of sustainability, socially, environmentally. And also, as we said, like I already mentioned, parks and gardens are very important, but we need also to support the sustainability of outdoor spaces by also having or introducing new typologies by designing the urban streets to support the idea of or to support the social values of being outdoor. And if all the design in parks of Bahrain are achieving sustainability, we find now that there is a lot of successful practices happening now by the municipalities and working towards sustainability and achieving an agenda of sustainable developments in parks and gardens. And this is happening by different approach. Number one, by increasing number of parks and gardens, and also by using sustainable materials in the parks and gardens. This is in the process. And we are always, we always know the role of the fundamental role of planning, design, and management in Bahrain in supporting the concept of public open spaces. And here, as I mentioned, like having outdoor spaces and focusing on parks and gardens, focusing on different streets areas, will all support the idea of sustainability of open spaces.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wafa, for your detailed explanation about the queries. So at the end, I would like to thank to all of our participants, presenters for making our... Sorry? You want to say something, Dr. Wafa?
Yeah, if you don't mind, there was a question in the chat that I really would like to answer, because
yes,
I think...
Yes, please, welcome, Dr. Fatema. Maybe I missed it.
No, it's okay, but because not answering it might cause misunderstanding in the topic I was highlighting. The question was talking about that I was talking about design thinking in Islam, and this was not the case. And I'm sorry if I mislead the audience. Actually, what I was doing, I was using design thinking, and he was saying that design thinking is a process, and it's not. I was using design thinking as a way of thinking. Design thinking is an approach to think with, where a practice and theory is integrated in this method of thinking. So I used it to rethink the Islamic design in order to look at what kind of things or what is the possibilities in Islam philosophy that can be implemented in today interior design spaces. This is part of that question. And the thing about saying that the House of Wisdom was actually it's not a library, it's an intercultural library with a big part for translation. This information and the information about university is not a result from me. it is well stated in the literature, and you can go back for the books for different books like Dr. Jamal Khalili book about the House of Wisdom and how Arabic science was being how Arabic science saved ancient knowledge, and the other book is the House of Wisdom, how the Arabs transformed Western civilization. It's another book for Jonathan Lyons. So it's not a result that is stated by me, it is something that have been in the literature, and I used it and built on it the information. But if there is any other information from other literature, please inform me. Thank you, Mrs. Aisha.
Most welcome, Dr. Fatema, most welcome. It was a very good contribution from your side at the end. So we would like to end this session, and I would like to thank to all of our participants, presenters for making our journey most beautiful with your warm contribution. The special thanks goes to the head of the department, Dr. Haifa Al-Khalifa, for her vision to initiate such a big platform to celebrate and cherish Islamic art and architecture. Last but not the least, I would like to acknowledge the efforts and hard working of the Cultural Collaborative Committee and really congratulate Dr. Tamader Al-Fahar and her dynamic team to pave the path for the future activities to organize such events. Thank you everyone to make this event special with your presence. Have a very good day and take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Aisha, for